Operation Domination is underway. The ultimate game plan to dominate your NFL experience. With your hosts, Dan
You gotta be confident about your Achilles when you
Tez
show up.
Thornton,
Yeah, I mean, I got it.
Chris
Tired of
Dowhouse,
hearing about Mr. Pointless in fantasy.
and Adam LaRue. Don't hope to win. Be great and dominate.
So with that, let's move on to the wide receivers, where we can get all kinds of names in here because it's a weaker class than what we're used to the wide receivers being as of late. But I still think there's a lot of interesting values, and that was kind of my take. There's a lot of mid-round tier prospects that I think did establish themselves as being values. Chris, what did you see as far as this wide receiver class goes?
So I'm going to throw you a couple different names. One of the guys who just jumped onto my board, who I definitely didn't have on, it was Isaac TeSlaa, the guy who was, the combine star in a sense, had his own cheering section over there. But a guy who's 6'4", 214, ran a 4.43, had a ridiculous, I think it was a 39-inch vertical. He's tested out the charts, and the guy who had, wasn't uber productive in Arkansas, but a guy who had big time yardage, average over 19 yards per catch, effective in the red zone. And I just loved what I saw with him running around out there, kind of bringing the tape to life, where he's able to track the ball. He's got incredibly strong hands, and a guy who's just got ability that may be get on the field, a willing blocker. And you see a lot of these teams, we talked about Juwan Jennings earlier, a guy who could be a Juwan Jennings type receiver for a lot of these different teams, but also a way more higher skill athlete.
Yeah.
Another guy, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The other guy I like a lot is Thornton. Thornton is the guy from Tennessee. Dont'e Thornton is 6'5", ran a 4.3. Look, he averaged 25 yards per reception this past season, had 6 touchdowns. Everybody kind of credits it. Oh, it's Tennessee system. When you're 6'5", run 4.3s, and you have a pretty good hip stand, that's what I'm impressed by. He's not one of those guys who's just fast. He can get in and out of his breaks pretty good. He has a very limited route tree right now, but a guy that we saw last year coming out of LSU who ran 3 routes, had one of the better years as rookie. Sometimes when you have that skill set, you can do things when you can get down the field. So the guy, I think Thornton was a guy who was already on my radar, but I think just basically jumped on everybody else's radar. And like I said, 6'5".
I can do all that too, but he got all the height in the family. So I'm just.
I just want to jump in there real quick, Chris, because we heard a similar thing with Cedric Tillman, right? You're a Tennessee wide receiver. What can you really do? But I think what you saw, which is this isn't a typical Tennessee receiver. He is bigger, more physical, had decent hips. Thornton's even bigger than that and even faster than that. So I'm kind of with you. This could be a guy who really develops and catches your eye later on. And because he ran that 40, he's going to get higher draft capital. So I just wanted to jump in there with you on that one to kind of back you up as far as the riser goes. Who's your last one?
And Tory Horton, a guy that I think was able to show everybody what he was pre-injury, had back-to-back years where he had 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns going into last year. A guy that I think ran a 4.41, kind of solidified as one of those X receivers. Not a lot of X's, true X's, I think, in this draft. He's a guy I think you can play inside, outside. It reminds me a lot of Terry McLaurin personally, but Horton's a guy that I think is, showed me that he's healthy, and was a guy that I kind of already had on my board, but moved up my board after the performance at the combine.
Yeah, Horton definitely caught. I think Horton confirmed a lot of things that were on tape. But Adam, we go to you. Who else do you have to add to this riser list on the wide receiver side?
Yeah, first of all, I got to say I agree with you on a lot of those guys, especially Horton. I just wanted to, wide receiver, running back, I felt like there were a couple conversations to have, especially on the down guys. Wide receiver, I think there's a ton of things to talk about. So I didn't want to double up there, but I do like him a lot, and he's moving up my board. I wanted to say Jack Bech. He's someone who, look, he's built thick at the receiver position, so I was curious how that was going to work out in terms of his lateral agility. I thought he was a good receiver. I was just curious, how well he moved. I thought it was pretty well, but it's another one where on tape, especially like candidly, when you get some of these lower quality videos, can always perfectly gauge how fast their feet are chopping. So he's one that I thought I was gonna really like, but I wasn't all the way in, and now I'm all the way in. So I really liked him. But then the big one for me, the big one, boys, I'm gonna have a first round grade on Jayden Higgins. I love Jayden Higgins. I genuinely I think I still have Tet as my wide receiver 1. After that, I think Jayden Higgins is in the conversation immediately. Like, I would probably first onto my big board. Travis Hunter is higher, but that's because he is my CB1. I'm not sure which one I necessarily have graded higher as a wide receiver, if I'm being completely honest with you. I think Higgins has amongst the best hands in the class. I thought he moved on tape very well. For a guy his size, I thought he had some wiggle. I thought he could do some things after the catch. I thought his best of reminded me of Drake London in a lot of ways, in that he is just such a dominant West Coast style wide receiver. Not necessarily that he is Drake London. I think Drake London was a lot better as a prospect. Let me be very clear there. But that the things he is the best at reminds me of things that I thought about Drake London. But for him to also have the speed and then the get up, right, to be awesome on the jumps like that at his size, to me just kind of solidifies that you just move different for a dude at your size, and there's just not a ton of guys who can do that. Because even the 40 at the 4.47 I know that's not a number that like jumps out to people, but at the wide receiver position, that's like 82nd percentile. Like, that's pretty solid. It's one where candidly, the split, the 10-yard split's not great, but what that means is when your 40 still ends up good is that your long speed's crazy. That when you get into gear, you're going, right? So I know you can jump, I know you can move after the catch, and I know that once you're down the field, you're just going to keep picking up speed, and you're a guy that high points the ball like no other, has some of the best hands of the class. I love him. This was a great way to finish up the process for him.
I have McConkey at him. That's probably my comp with him right now.
Bigger though, you can be physical and do X things, while also being a great route runner and someone who can move after the catch.
Yeah, I brought us all in on this conversation because I think all of us, you'd be crazy not to have Higgins as a riser at the wide receiver position. I mean, flat out, plain and simple. I liked his route running. I liked his high pointing of the ball. I liked what he did with the box out in the red zone. He shows all those abilities there. But what I question, and I told Chris this off screen, I thought this was a guy who's going to come in and run a 4.6, because I did not see anything that indicated to me that he could stretch the field effectively or run or separate from guys at the top of routes on that third level. When he came out and ran a 4.47, now I think his 4.52 on his second run is a little more accurate to what I think he really will be more times than not. But even the 4.52 would be great. But his official time being a 4.47. Okay, well, now you're big, legit big, because he measured it at 6'4", 214, and you can run, and I already know you're a good route runner. I mean, I have this comp at Adam Thielen. I'm having trouble moving off of that because the tape, man, he screams Adam Thielen to me, but let's just say he might be a faster version of Adam Thielen. So, Chris, I know you love them, so I wanted to bring in this conversation too.
No, I do, and I think I'm glad that Adam is excited as well. I think about this guy. Look, what I like about him, Adam, he talked about the long speed he kind of gains up, but a guy that was able to get open in the phone booth off the line quickly is able to be able to push up the field with that speed you guys talked about, but able to break down and get open. That's going to be pivotal. He's going to get separation galore in the NFL, which is what makes King getting targets. That's how it kind of trickles down to you. That's why Lukaku was so good last year. And I think a lot of people were surprised when Ladd ran last year in his 40. I think similar to Higgins, he's got that ability to kind of stretch the field and attack the ball. Those things play out well in the NFL.
You combine great long speed with a great release package, that's dangerous to me. And that's why where I'm like, I'm not worried about the 10-yard split not being the best, because your release package is awesome. You out physical corners of the line of scrimmage, so I don't care.
So you have a wide receiver too. I still can't put him over Trey Harris.
I have Trey Harris in the same tier. He is very, very close. My top 4 guys are all very, very close.
But I will say Higgins moved up my board where I am talking about him as, okay, are you the third best receiver potentially? Because I'm not as big on Luther Burden as a lot of people are.
I am not either.
I do think he helped himself a little bit by running a 4.41. That did kind of surprise me, but I'm still not as big on Luther Burden as most are. And I'm not as big, even with the speed demon of Matthew Golden, I still think he would be a bust first-round pick. He does not have enough of a package, in my opinion, to be a first-round pick wide receiver. So the more I talk about this, you know what? I think Higgins might be my wide receiver 3. So I'll be one spot behind you, Adam, on that. Chase, did you have anything on Higgins that stuck out to you that dropped your jaw? Since we're
Dude, 6'4", 215 and ran fast. Yeah. No, I mean, 6'4" is a whole other world to me. But no, I agree with everything that's been said here. I think he helped himself. I think his teammate Jalen Noel helped himself too. I think he played very well and showed out very well. I think this weekend as well. I think Golden looked like a boss in that 40, so I think he helped himself. I don't necessarily know that. Yeah, he jumped up a ton in my estimation. He was going to be where he was going to be anyway. But running 4.29, especially when his teammate Isaiah Bond kind of laid an egg in that same event there. But yeah, Higgins looked like a stud.
It's like the scouts were scouting the wrong player the whole season, guys.
Can we just take a brief aside to talk about Isaiah Bond saying that he was going to break the combine record and then running a 4.4? That's awesome.
Yeah.
One better for you, Adam. Who did he pay off to say that his official time was a 4.39? Because I call BS. I'm sorry. I was watching that there.
He didn't even look as fast as he was, quote unquote.
He did not get to the 4.39. Who did you pay off to be like, all right, well, we'll give you the 4.39. The only thing I'll give Bonds, we're not totally trash, and was like, okay, yes, you did get to 24 miles an hour, which was the fastest of any.
Yes, he achieved the fastest time. Yeah,
sure.
Fastest speed. Yeah.
Still weren't sniffing Xavier Worthy, and I think not that I had him on my list as a downer, or I still had an upper. I'll just say this, Chase. I totally agree with you, Jalen Noel. Awesome. Also boomed up my board. Also, I think he is everything to Chris's point. What Isaiah Bond was supposed to be, like they were scouting the wrong player and everything like that. So I'll leave that at that because we will have a wide receiver episode later on. But I want to get back to that conversation about Isaiah Bond. He needed to be the elite athlete he was saying he was going to be to rectify the idea that this is a guy who's been consistently falling since this draft process has really started back in January when the NFL season ends. People were talking about the first round. Then when you actually watch his tape, he was falling to the late second round. And now he comes out and is like, well, you're a good athlete, but you're not a scary, crazy athlete. Like third round to me is tops now for Isaiah Bond. I mean, does anybody disagree with that? Am I being too harsh?
I don't know that you're being harsh enough, to be honest with you.
Yes, agreed.
As I'm getting deeper in the class, I think that the demise of this wide receiver class is a little overspoken. It doesn't have the guys at the top, but man, I have a lot of day 2 grades that I didn't really think that I was going to have. So for him to fall flat like that.
Yeah, and there's people out there trying to make the argument, well, he's still fast. He's still 4.39 official time. I'm like, yeah, but that's not the point, dude. Like, this dude had to be something else.
Special.
The fact that he was bum in Texas. I mean, flat out, plain and simple. You saw it for a flash, saw it for plays. You never saw him put the package together. I'm not impressed with his route running to begin with, and you're not an elite level athlete for your size, for what you're going to need to do to be productive at the NFL level. So, yeah, that yes, we could take that conversation. We had to.
Is there something to what they're teaching the wide receivers in Texas? Because I mean, the knock on Worthy in them last year was that the route running wasn't great. They were fast, but they didn't run routes well. And when I watched tape, they all looked like they kind of came off the line half-ass and then tried to like out fast somebody. Is there something to what they're doing there in their wide receiver room that is costing these dudes?
It's Sarkisian. Look at what he's at. Look at the type of wide receivers he's getting. I want just fast guys. And that's all they're going for. They're not going for the nuances.
But you can be fast. Yeah, and that's part of that's the problem. And I guess that's what I'm asking here is, I mean, you can be fast and still be a decent ass route runner or be coached into playing football fundamentally. And it doesn't look like they are coaching them that way at the wide receiver position at Texas. And I think that's hurting these guys. I think Worthy proved this year that he's an NFL talent. And I think he could have been better in college than he was even. And I think he could be better in the pros than he showed this year too, had he had proper coaching. It just doesn't look like they're getting proper coaching at the wide receiver position in Texas. It's just something
they don't run a route tree, Chase. I mean, that's basically what happens. Basically their scheme is they have a guy they try to scheme open and get the ball, so everybody else is running kind of dummy routes, and that's what you kind of get, people running half-ass routes.
So I also want to bring us all in because as we get to the down guys, there is one, I think, common down guy for all of us outside of Isaiah Bond. And that'd be the bitty Tez Johnson. Oh man. So not only was his size at 154 like, oh, okay, but then when he comes out and runs only a 4.51, like it's a profile type. He's the only player in my entire scouting process I have no comp for, because there is no comp for. Plain and simple. There's nobody that small without having elite speed. And Chris, I know you were with me because we talked about this. Like, we really like Tez Johnson on the film. How do you feel about him now?
Yeah, I was cooling down going into it. So he's not a guy that necessarily has a dropper, because I didn't have him as high on the board as a lot of people had necessarily. Dan, I worry that we kind of fell off the idea of Tank Dell, and we got kind of swept up in the idea that these guys can go out there and do that. But the difference with Tank Dell was his ability to attack the ball, his ability to be able to be in contested situations, his ability to make guys miss, after the catches, and be able to kind of, stretch the field as well. Tez Johnson doesn't check many of those lists of those guys, these things that I just named. If he's not going to run a 4.4 or something, he's not stretching the field very much. If he's not making guys miss, he's not, with his agility, then what's he going to be doing? And then you look at a guy who's about 55, who isn't going to be, showing you the contested opportunities, isn't scoring lots of touchdowns like you saw Tank Dell do in college. So I think a lot of the things that we kind of saw in the other guys, the gadget guys, like these, Tutu Atwells and guys like that, who I think things kind of will bum rap, but those guys get easily stuck into a pigeonhole role, and I think that's what happened to him this combine.
The one thing you can say about Tez Johnson, he did have the fastest 3-cone drill in terms of changing direction, and in terms of getting open, that's more important than just straight ass line speed. Now, it doesn't help things, though, when you're the lightest wide receiver since 2010, for crying out loud. I mean, yeah, he is still this minuscule little human being, and I'm not minuscule despite my height, because I carry the heft to back it up. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to run that slow a 40 time, oh dude, you hurt yourself big time. He can still get open, but is he going to be able to do that in the NFL? Is he going to be able to get off the line against dudes and to be able to get open like that? That 3-cone drill helped him. And I think it was more that's more a symptom of how he was able to get open, rather than showing like what he's something else that he's capable of in the NFL. He still can get open, but dude, yeah, he didn't help himself at all this weekend.
Yeah, it was rough. Chris, who else did you have on the downside here?
So some of the guys that kind of went down my board, I was looking for reasons to kind of, from production, and I thought maybe they had something like their tape. As it kind of going back to Adam, these guys definitely did get kind of affected by the combine. But White, the third from UNLV, look, the guy was very productive. I had some kind of curiosity against the level of competition that he faced for UNLV, and I thought maybe the production was real. Maybe this guy could do a lot of things. And then I saw kind of the 40. I saw some of the athleticism. I saw him actually catch the ball, and they were running around doing some of the routes running, and I wasn't very impressed with getting in and out of his breaks. Didn't really think he high-putted the ball very well. Didn't catch the ball clearly with his hands all the time. So this is a guy that I thought could be like a sleeper, maybe a guy who could be a guy who stretched the field. Ricky White the third is a guy that I look at now as a guy who's going to be lucky to make a team. He probably will, because he can play special teams, but isn't a guy I think be looking to be a receiver 3 or receiver 4, even a receiver 4 in the NFL.
Yeah, I put Adam up there because Adam, you had the same guy, right?
Yeah, no, I did. He's in same story. I saw the production and was starting to get really intrigued by him. Watched him a little bit. It's one of those, I messaged in the group chat earlier today, right, where I was like, man, somebody needs to get North Dakota State some new cameras, because it's just awful. It's awful watching prospects at that level. And for them, I was like, yo, but you sent so many guys to the pros. Like, why am I getting cell phone footage? To your point, why does it look like I'm looking at a gas station surveillance camera? But UNLV is very similar in that sense, right? So it's kind of hard to gauge a guy's speed. And this is where like getting small school guys into the combine is really helpful, because I can be like, all right, like, are you fast or are you not? Like Marcus Yards was someone who actually was fast, but I wasn't sure watching the tape, because the tape was real hard to come by. But for him, yeah, I saw the yards per route run. It was awesome. 1,400 yards, not this past season, but the season prior, and 1,000 yards this season. I was like, there's something here. But yeah, a 4.6 at 180 pounds And when you're 6'1", like you at least got to give me something, right? Like if you're that tall, then at least be a long strider. If you're that light, get off the ball quick. Like what? How can we not do either? It's frustrating, but yeah, he was someone who was briefly someone I thought could be a sleeper, you know, towards the top of day 3, but has quickly fallen off of my radar for that.
Yeah,
Chris,
the other two. Go ahead, Dan.
No, is that Chris? Wrap up your other two, and then we'll move.
The other two guys was Pat Bryant and Josh Kelly. Pat Bryant from Illinois is a guy that, you know, there's a lot of different receivers that Adam kind of alluded to that could be on out there that can be possession guys. So I needed to see something kind of separate you. With all these guys who are running 4.5s, some 4.4s, it's kind of hard for these possession guys that kind of run 4.6s or below and not necessarily have great separation on tape either. So Pat Bryant's a guy I think kind of went down, another productive guy in college, but didn't really see that he's going to necessarily produce in the NFL. And then Josh Kelly was a guy who started gaining steam, guy who's been in college forever, but then kind of went out there, has a skinny body, ran a 4.7, just looked terrible as an athlete in general. So looked at production, can't justify the production as another guy who will get drafted.
Yeah, so it's a good group that we got to talk about. It is. Hey there, I want to thank you for watching Operation Domination today. And if you're enjoying the show, there are some ways you can help support us. You can go to podchaser.com/Operation Domination and leave us a 5-star review. And you can do this on any podcast platform or on our YouTube page when you go to @FF Advice Network. This completely helps out the show be able to grow, and also leave us comments to let us know how we can curtail the show to you, because you are the most important member of the show. So again, go to podchaser.com/Operation Domination to leave a 5-star review and leave a comment wherever you listen or watch the show, and we'll help better serve you.